NDW's renewed program of action. The National Democratic Working Group, NDWG, takes note of the bail ruling delivered by the South African Magistrates Court, which remanded our chairman and the chief facilitator, Advocate Job Sikhala, out of custody and instructed him to come back to court on 3 February 2026. We want to assure the citizens of Zimbabwe that our chairman and chief facilitator is in high spirits and has, in the meantime, appointed the National Democratic Working Group Northern Region Facilitator, the Speaker, Dr. Urai Zembe, to be the acting chairman and chief facilitator until he comes back from office after his short leave to take some rest. As NDWG, we remain unmoved, unshaken by the current court case in which our chairman and chief facilitator is facing a trumped-up charge of being in a car in which explosives were illegally planted as a trap. We are lucky that Advocate Job Sikhala survived a deadly assassination attempt on his life. The explosives could have exploded while he was in the car. His uncle, too, Alexander Tema, could also have died in the sinister planted bomb attack. We maintain that our chief facilitator is innocent until proven guilty, and we remain confident that the South African courts will preside over this case without fear or favor. We are aware that the ZANU-PF regime in Zimbabwe is already salivating for Advocate Sikhala's pound of flesh. And in this regard, we ask the ZANU-PF regime in Zimbabwe to desist from attacking and dehumanizing our chairman and chief facilitator through its agents and public office bearers like Jenfan Muswere, who I understand, when I read your product in the media some time ago, that there was an allegation that he bought 2 PhD degrees, 2 of them. Can you imagine? 2. And a PhD represents the apex of knowledge in a given area of study. That is the highest level of speciality in terms of academic discourse. Now, when you have 2, where is your mind? Who are you professionally? And I hope you members of the media will pursue to find out whether the allegation that Jenfan Muswere bought fake PhD degrees, 2 of them, like a bundle of firewood, Vingirai, uni dzinenge dzichinoveswaka, zvino kana iri knowledge ukaita maviri, waita misoro miviri here, and if so, where is your expertise? So we are saying here that we listen to the rantings, the nation listened to the recent rantings by Jenfan Muswere against Advocate Sikhala. Advocate Sikhala is an attorney at law. He has studied law. He's a legal practitioner and qualified to pass an opinion on judicial systems. Clearly, the South African judicial system was efficient, prompt, and was able to come to a decision that Advocate Sikhala was facing a trumped-up charge. He was in transit, having gone to the, as guest speaker to the Botswana Patriotic Front Congress, where he was invited, and he flew to South Africa. And on the day before he flew to Zimbabwe, these machinations, these plots were meted on him. So clearly, how could a person who was traveling by air miraculously be carrying explosives? And you know how rigorous airports are in terms of searching the luggage. There you are. It's a compliment I'm passing on the South African legal jurisprudence compared to ours. Ours, the verdict is yours. It's very clear. Advocate Sikhala is a survivor of a corrupt and inefficient judicial system in our land. I don't need to go further than that. I was remarking on the rabid utterances by Jan van Muswere against Advocate Sikhala. And we as National Democratic Working Group, we stand in defense of the stature of our leader, which is clear. Go to his biography, which has just been published, which is launching, and you'll see the torture, the brutality he has suffered, captured in 2 chapters. The first one, in the torture chambers, in the torture chamber of Robert Mugabe. That's number 1. The second one, under the jaws of Emerson Mnangagwa. Those 2 chapters identify who the enemies of Job Sikhala are. Let me move on. As NDWG leadership and governance structures, we remain strategically focused on our mass movement's inclusive consultative agenda to achieve the following deliverables. Ladies and gentlemen, the title of the this presser, as I read it, NDWG's renewed program of action. The following deliverables will be the output of the National Democratic Working Group processes in Zimbabwe. 1, consolidation of our national structures in preparation for the People's Democratic Convention, Darerabano, Imbizo. So we are marching towards the holding of the National People's Convention, where the people will pass important resolutions for implementation, dealing with the problems in their country. Many of them, I should say a myriad of them. 2, working with like-minded citizens and the groups against the manipulation and mutilation of our national constitution. I want to take this opportunity to abuse people who believe that a constitution resides, or a constitution is made up of paper. No. The constitution we are referring to, national constitution, is in the hearts and minds of Zimbabweans. Whatever has been reduced to paper may be inadequate in that current form as a constitutional text. So when you talk of a national constitution, is embedded in the people's cultures, and that the agreement that Tsika, this is how we should go about governing ourselves, constitutes a constitution. So the National Democratic Working Group will work with like-minded citizens. 3, rejection of any agenda to abolish periodic national general elections in Zimbabwe, as proposed by the ZANU-PF Resolution number 1 on the 2030 agenda for Mnangagwa's life presidency. we maintain as NDWG, it's a ruse for Mr. Mnangagwa to ask Zimbabweans, before we reach 2028, to give him permission to stay in office for 2 more years to 2030. That is not true. His true intention is for him to die in office, using the indemnity clause, which is in the constitutional text he's using. That constitutional text, which is the Constitution of Zimbabwe Amendment number 20 Act of 2013, was authored by Mnangagwa's predecessor, Robert Gabriel Mugabe. And he produced a document that intended to protect him in office until he died. This is why in that document, they put a clause to say the running mate provision would not be implemented for 10 years from 2013. How would you have a constitution that suspends the idea of how the nation should govern itself? Because it was to allow Mugabe to choose, to pick and choose his deputies. And he would control them because he was the appointing officer. You see, what we are talking about here in terms of the office of the president and vice presidents should be directly or should be elected by the people, not appointed by an office bearer. Because the appointee will be loyal to the appointer. I was simply talking to the 2013 amendment, constitutional write-up, that it sought to protect the interests of Robert Mugabe and his ZANU-PF political party. And as you know, Robert Mugabe was not ousted in an election. He was ousted in another fashion by citizens of this country. First, those whom he was ruling with, leading in the army, and they quarreled at work. And again, those he was leading in his ZANU-PF political party, they quarreled. And for Mugabe, he was senile. That is why he was kicked out. Otherwise, he would have remained there until he died in office. Those were his intentions, but which were unfulfilled. Because this country belongs to 16 million people, thereabout, not one person. Now Mnangagwa is trying to do the same again. While we are suffering, like we are experiencing, why would somebody promise us that he will dictate further than 2018 when he should 2028 when he should leave office, dictating further, so that we continue to suffer and die under undemocratic rule, which does not observe human rights in this country. Why? Obviously, the Zimbabweans, the masses of our nation, have rejected the so-called ZANU-PF resolution number 1. They want to appoint their leaders in a people's free and fair election, not in an election that belongs to the so-called president. No. I took a little bit of time on this one because what we are gathering as National Democratic Working Group is that the people of this country are furious. And they've sent us to actually make this statement to say, no, Mr. Mnangagwa and your ZANU-PF, the nation belongs to the people. The people are the nation. And this nation fought an armed liberation struggle in order to have self-rule. And under self-rule, it is universally accepted that civilian governments should come from the people who vote in and out, not from the army, not from political parties. but from the people, the voter, the elector, and that shall remain. So we are a loyal leader of Zimbabweans as National Democratic Working Group, and you have heard us there. 4, uniting all Zimbabweans against dictatorship and pushing for necessary institutional, electoral, constitutional, and governance reforms before the 2028 scheduled general elections. This is the national agreement. Yes, I talked on how the 2013 write-up constitution is inadequate. But the people together have an agreement to say that Mnangagwa's term should end in 2028. And that is a constitutional provision in the hearts and minds of Zimbabweans. And as the National Democratic Working Group, we shall fight to defend the people's right to vote in 2028 for a civilian government of their choice. 5, countering disinformation concocted by the ZANU-PF regime in Zimbabwe and its agents, both locally and abroad. I spoke at length on how we view Jan van Muswere's utterances, and also on the tragedy that faced our chairman and the national chief facilitator in South Africa. These are agents of ZANU-PF. Remember, in Masvingo on 11 July 2025, the ZANU-PF thugs, led by one Esau Mutano, disrupted the book launch. Can you imagine? To put a book on the shelf is big development. But then this is how the ZANU-PF thugs destroyed intellectual work. As I often say, books outlive our lives on earth. They will benefit future generations. And again, we know what happened when, on the 30th of August, when the advocate Sikhala was launching his book in Joburg, another ZANU-PF agent was captured there, one Runesu Zambezi. So here is evidence of the agents locally and abroad of ZANU-PF regime persecuting citizens of this country, fellow Zimbabweans, home and away. So defining them as enemies, this is outrageous and should be condemned by all Zimbabweans, by entire progressive, democratic citizens of the world. Lastly, we urge Zimbabweans to remain focused and defend our fundamental, universal, democratic human rights. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Acting Chairperson and Chief Facilitator of the National Democratic Working Group. Thank you very much for such presentation. And he managed to chronicle the suffering which leaders of National Democratic Working Group, together with Zimbabweans, are facing. Probably, maybe just to recap on that one, this year alone, on the 8th of February, we had a meeting in Penalonga. We were arrested. It was raining. We were bundled in open trucks. We were taken to Penalonga police station. They failed to find a charge for us, boss. We had the police officers were calling back here in Harare. I wonder why they were calling in Harare to ask for a charge. We were taken to Mutare Central Police Station, law and order. Both of us were there, together with our chief facilitator, and other members of National Democratic Group were there, but we were later on released. But our chief national organ we left him in custody because he was said to be the one who convened at the meeting. So it has been some months. How many months you have been going to Mtare up and down, but at the end of 8 months of going almost after every 2 weeks going to Mtare, coming back, you know, the justice system of this country is porous. You go there, you are told that, the magistrate is pregnant, so it's now in labor. The ambuya va magistrate vanga vachirwara. So such a thing ndo zvairerwa nachief asita pavakataura kuti vari South Africa. There's no feja investigation in South Africa. There's no feja courts. Unfortunately, he didn't mention kuti kune feja, but vefeja takaona na Jennifer Muswere vaku defend. So now is the time yekuti imimi sema members of the media mupe mibvunzo. So we shall be doing it like this. We will be taking 3 questions at a time. You raise your hand, you identify yourself. By identifying yourself, we mean you tell us your name and your media house. So after 3 questions, then we give the opportunity to presenters in front of you to give responses. Then we take another round. So I think if we take 3 rounds of 3 questions, if there are more questions, we can still take another 2 rounds. So it's over to you, members of the media.
My name is Shamran Bashina from Atenso. My question is directed to Dr. Nero Zembe. We have attended so many press conferences.
Sorry, Uraya Zembe.
Yes, Uraya Zembe. Sorry for that. We have attended so many press conferences talking about how these people intend to block the constitutional amendment. What's your strategy? What's your plan that sets you apart from everyone else who's talking about blocking the constitutional amendment? Do you have a game plan? The people of Zimbabwe need to know, because at times they are fed up by people who always come do speeches, but on the ground there's nothing that they do to implement whatever they would have said. So what's your plan? What sets you apart from everyone else who's talking about blocking the Vision 2030 agenda of constitutional amendment? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another question?
Thank you, Thomas Freelance. Where is Honorable Sikhala? Is he back in Zimbabwe or is he in South Africa?
Another question? Apana me question tona ngbo atendewa emaviri kana pasina but taida kutora a round of 3. So anything else?
All right, let me just put it this way. You have raised the issue of wording people's convention. Is it practical under the leadership which you condemn?
Thank you very much. So I'll give an opportunity to Dr. Oraya Zembe first to respond to the question around what's your plan against 2030 agenda. So over to you, Acting Chief Facilitator.
Thank you, Event Chair. Thank you for the questions. Let me start by answering the latest question. I believe in last in, last out order of things. Is it practicable for the National Democratic Working Group to cause Zimbabweans to assemble in a People's Democratic Convention, given the current leadership that we, according to the questioner, are condemning? Very much so. It's very possible. The leadership is a very small minority. because we are talking of government leadership here. It's a very small minority. You can count them. Compared to 16 million people, surely you can see that whatever the masses of this nation desire, they shall have. Once upon a time, we had leaderships that had guns and ruling on the basis of the color of one's skin. We also had a leader who believed he had degrees in violence, Robert Gabriel Mugabe. But all these leaders were defeated by the people, you see? So the fact that you have a dictatorial leadership does not prevent or stop people from thinking and devising methodologies of dealing with the problem. In other words, of overcoming the impediment. Yes, as we hold this press conference, that leadership is in office. And we are engaging fellow citizens who are couriers of information, the media practitioners yourselves, so that you scatter the news, you disseminate the news, thereby empowering citizens of this country to empower both ourselves as NDWG and yourselves as media practitioners. And we have actually witnessed in other parts of the world media practitioners acting more like military personnel, going into the forefront of the war and getting pictures, others getting killed. That is how serious it can be in terms of saving the interests of humanity. So, yes, currently we see the people of this country are actually angered by some of the acts that are being done by the dictatorship that has gone rogue, completely rogue, plotting to oppress. This is 2025. People until they die in office. You see? In our language, kurodzera vanhu pfumo vakatarisa. You know, the ZANU-PF regime sharpening a spear that it will use to destroy all of us. Do you think that they will succeed? No. The masses of the people are rising to resist dictatorship. I was responding to the latest question. The second question, where is Advocate Job Sikhala? Advocate Job Sikhala is a very free person. You saw what happened in South Africa. The system there already, we can say with confidence, having listened to Advocate Sikhala's defense and or submission, let me put it that way, and also having viewed the CCTV, the matter is concluded. Advocate Job Sikhala and his uncle are free people. You know procedurally, once a matter is brought before the courts of law, it must follow the due process. So that is what we have said in our statement. We are waiting for the due process. But Advocate Sikhala is a free person. At this stage, I cannot tell you where he is, because you have asked the question here, but all I can say to you is very free. And as you have heard, that he has taken a short leave to rest. And very soon, he will be with us here. I mean here, practically here. Not here by saying at his home and so on. You know, at this stage, I can't state where exactly he is. But it's enough to tell you that he's a free person like you and me. Yes, court processes, these are processes of arbitration. When there's conflicts, criminal or civil, they are subjected to the court processes as arbiters, you know, to resolve the matter. Then the first question, what is your plan to block the 2013 the 2030 ZANU-PF political party and government 2030, you called it vision. Maybe, you know, a vision and an agenda may be different, because a vision is a view of envisaging something new that will be beneficial either to the members or to the nation. But an agenda could be simply pursuing the interests, egoistic interests of individuals. So the 2030 ZANU-PF agenda, how are we blocking it? This process we are undertaking is part of the blockade. And remember, as a movement, we are consulting. We are also gathering data of what ZANU-PF political party and government are doing. And as we move towards the People's Democratic Convention, we are collecting the data. The people are going to be deciding officially on courses of action to take. So it's exactly precisely our agenda as National Democratic Working Group, right from inception, to get the people's ideas on their lives, nuna zavanu, problems that they are facing in various areas of activities, in various forms. That is what we are gathering. So the 2030 ZANU-PF Mnangagwa one-person rule agenda has enriched our consultative process as we move on. We're asking the people of Zimbabwe. Already I've alluded to the fact that there is you know, overwhelming rejection of the this idea to abolish periodic democratic people's elections in the governance process. There's in fact, outrage and enmity that is triggered in people to say, but you know, the philosophy of governance, people-based governance, democracy based on civilian rule, the power resides in the people to appoint their public leaders and to disappoint them. If they fail, they are kicked out. That's why periodic elections must be held, because it is known that monopolists, people who want to rule forever, will be damn inefficient, because they see their view and they actually create themselves into demigods and begin to think that they are the creators of the universe and the people. There is the danger. So periodic democratic people's elections can't be stopped by the 2030 ZANU-PF agenda. No, they are joking. So we are not focusing much, apart from this dismissal recognition where we are saying. You can see that the renewed, the revamped National Democratic Working Group program of action, there's more substance to it. So we are focused on on our vision and mission as a movement. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Before I also ask the chief national organ to comment, probably I would like to say something. Dr. Rai Zembe told us that this country has 16 million people. Out of those 16 million people, majority of them, over 65%, are young people. Wherever you go, you can tell, even among yourself. I think if I'm to look at these journalists, I think 90% are youth. So as young people in National Democratic Working Group, of course, we can't disclose strategies in public when it comes to what is our action when it comes to block the 2030 agenda. But it is enough to tell you that we are against it, and we shall do anything. But we are not going to disclose the strategy. And I assume that the system is aware that we have a very strong strategy to go against the 2030 agenda. A few weeks ago, our chief facilitator, together with other like-minded people, they wanted to have a presser at Seps Trust. You see what happened? A night before, the property was burned. Don't think that is just a coincidence. This government has been investing a lot in trying to find out our strategy. And on the 30th of October, we expected to celebrate the birthday of our chief facilitator. You know, he was in prison for 595 days. So we thought we could celebrate. After the venue was cleared, paid everything, a night before, he was asked by the security agents that we don't have enough security. Can you postpone? And he's a law-abiding citizen. He postponed. But to our surprise, the following morning, at Chaminuga grounds, where we were supposed to have that birthday, there were police officers with baton sticks and dogs. They didn't end there. At his residence in St. Mary's, there were trucks full of police officers roaming around. Imagine, you see how our chief facilitator, because of the power he's getting from us, the citizens of Zimbabwe, is being feared. I think he's the most feared person at the moment by the regime. Imagine deploying probably the whole battalion to advocate Job Sikhala, a person who doesn't own even an op carry. Ask yourself, why are they doing that? Then on the issue of saying, where is Job Sikhala? Wow, the fact that Dr. Uraya Zembe is the acting chairperson and chief facilitator of National Democratic Working Group, it means our chief facilitator is recharging, is on holiday. We can't disclose where he is. We classify it as classified information. Whatever you want from his office, you can talk to Dr. Uraya Zembe. We know enemies of progress are looking for him. So they will actually look to what you are going to publish, looking for that information. Then question is it possible to have the People's National Convention? It's very possible. If you see us tichibvuma kurambidzwa kuita my events, it doesn't mean that we don't know how to be violent. We know how to be violent, and we don't want to be violent. We are being told that they don't have enough security to guarantee security at our events. But ZANU-PF is moving around. They were in Chitungwiza the other day. Per weekend, they were in Headcliff. Where are they getting the police to guarantee the security? Why do they don't want us to gather? They know the power we have. So only our word scares them. Whenever we just say no to 2030, as we speak, there are probably hundreds and hundreds of people who have been tasked to listen to what we are going to say today. And I know some of those people are among you. Go and tell them that we said we have a strong strategy. You need to invest more millions to undisclose that strategy, and you won't get it. So over to you, Chief National Organ.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm so happy to hear that you have the interest of knowing where the chief facilitator is. And the simple answer is, when somebody is on leave and is on holiday, I think it's time to give him space to rest. So we don't even need to bother to know of his whereabouts during such a time. Like what the youth spokesperson has said. Dr. Zembe is there, he's the acting chairperson. Anything that you need is there for you guys. So let's not worry about the whereabouts of Advocate Sikhala. He's resting, let him rest like any other leader. In the world, they go for leave and they're allowed to have their leave in free time, free space, and enjoy with their families. Then I also need to answer the question which one says, how are you going to hold the national convention, despite the fact that you are saying the regime is actually fighting us. There's no democracy. Obviously, if one needs to be honest, you can see that the democratic space in this country is shrinking day in, day out. But I can refer you back to 2015, 2016. Some other time, Mugabe even came up with ideas of introducing some statutory instruments to try and block the citizens from performing what they want to do. But despite the fact that there were those statutory instruments, they failed to stop the power of the people. The people are the people. They have the power. They can never be stopped, no matter how the dictator puts the money on the table. When the people say enough is enough, they mean it will be enough. And this is what we are saying. 2030 is never going to exist. It will only exist on the clock, not as far as we will be alive as citizens of Zimbabwe. Never, ever. We are going to fight thick and thin to stop that 2030 madness. So let's not worry about what the dictator is doing, but we have to worry about how we are now planning way forward to stop it. And we are sure with the way we are doing things, we are on course. It's very unfortunate that strategies cannot be put to the public, but we have strategies. Be assured, NDWG has a strategy to stop the 2030 mantra. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief National Organ. And especially on the strategy and how are we going to stop it, I think the Smith regime was a bit cruel. But the current president, by then he was actually younger than me. We are told that he banned a train. So if banning a train was a revolutionary act to him, it can be also a revolutionary act to us. So when he was at our age, he did whatever he did to force the system to consider what people were saying. So we saw that in August when he was asked by Heroes Day, he was so proud about it. So if it was a revolutionary act, we may also consider such revolutionary acts dzinosuta the current environment yatiri, dzinosuta the current period yatiri. Because when I'm speaking personally, I'm speaking on behalf of the young people. We are the most energetic group. And during the colonial era, the young people took action. And even majority of them, the likes of Chiwenga, the likes of Nangagba, and they were young during that time. And they took it upon themselves. So we have a duty to conscientize. And apando patishavaratidza kuti 2030 inogona kuitika chete kana vatutira tese mumajere kana kuti vauraya vamwe. As long we are still alive, as long we are walking, I tell you, it won't happen. And you know, in this country, as a young person, I think majority of you don't want to join politics. Because once you join politics, it's like death sentence. So some of us, we died the day we decided to fight the dictatorship. So I don't fear to die anymore. And I encourage more young people not to fear death. Because at the end of the day, you'll die. Even if you kill me today, you'll die. So in our response to your questions, I'm sure you might have questions. You might need clarity. So we are taking another round of 3 questions. The same way Atachita, you identify yourself, you say your question, then we respond to your question. Over to you, the members of the media.
My name is Jeffrey Moyo. I am a journalist with the New York Times. My question to you is, we have said you do like what President Mnangagwa once did when he was a young person. He claimed to have bombed a train. Does that amount to threats of violence in the country? That is my question. What really are you going to do? Are you going to spark some violent protests in the country.
All right. Noted. Another question?
It's fine. Let's respond. I think we can.
All right.
Close.
You said
All right.
you know how to execute violence. So are you telling us that you teach people, you teach the young people to be violent so that they regain what an enemy, if it is an enemy, has grabbed from you? Or we just have to go it a democratic way? Because the National Democratic Working Group, it's democratic. It just means we have to go it, when we think of doing anything, we have to go it a democratic way. So will we ever align violence to one of a democratic kind of an item?
All right, thank you very much for the question. Let me respond to this too. If you got me right, what Mnangagwa did by burning a train, was it a violent act or a revolutionary act? If it was a revolutionary act, why are you insinuating that I'm inciting violence? We said, we gave an example of how to exert pressure. There are so many peaceful ways of exerting pressure. And my brother is talking about democracy. Democracy is about the majority. The suffering people in this country are more than those who are happy. And I don't think you can call violence when people, they are defending themselves. We know the behavior of the regime. If we are to go to the streets today, they will definitely do something to us. And you don't expect us to fold our hands when you are being attacked. Don't tell me that when I'm fighting a crocodile which wants my flesh, then you say I'm being unfair to animals. This is a matter of life and death. So I can't defend the rights of a crocodile which wants to eat me. Say, no, people, they will say I'm violent. No, I have to defend myself. So I'm saying people should defend their rights. People should defend themselves. And there are so many ways in our constitution. And sometimes we are denied. So sometimes we might decide to exert pressure. I said we are the majority. As young people, we have the energy. But we are not only the young people. If you look at these two guys on my left, these are older than me. They don't have much energy, but they have experience. So experience coupled with energy will reach somewhere. I hope I clarified. I know in the press you might even misquote saying the National Democratic Working Group Youth Movement spokesperson was encouraging Zimbabweans to be violent. I am encouraging Zimbabweans to defend themselves from attack. And on that one, I said without fear of contradiction, without fear of being persecuted. Because I will be always right. Even if I'm to be persecuted, after some time, you realize that Chinama, the spokesperson of the youth movement, was right. And if you'd want to, you would agree with me, majority of you, you would agree with me. I think I have addressed that. And I think probably, since I said I have more energy, probably I'm putting too much energy. Maybe Dr. Uriah Zembe can speak with a soft voice, which is coupled with experience. Over to you.
Thank you, head of the Contra movement. You haven't said anything that constitutes incitement of violence. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a war right now. the war of rampant violation of fundamental human rights. Don't take this to be a joke. In any war situation, the broader majority will adopt strategies to vanquish those who violate others, people's rights, those who are bent on bombing others' homes for no apparent reason except that they have a vendetta and personal hatred. When you are in public office, you are there for every Zimbabwean. But what we are seeing is that the ZANU-PF regime has gone amok, and it's viewing anybody who thinks as an enemy. And so we are in a war situation. Now, in a war situation, the few destabilize peace processes, and they cannot be allowed to continue doing so. They cause suffering, death unnecessarily. So the majority will have power to vanquish the acts of the minority, violence of the minority, who abuse state institutions against the people. The executive, that means the public service, used against the people. The legislature, used against the people. The judiciary, used against the people. The people will have to discover new institutions. And for them to do so, they have to crush the insurrection by the minority. It's not violence. If you want to shoot me with your gun and I dribble you, I get your gun and shoot you, it's not violence. It's action in self-defense. So the slant that our national youth spokesperson would be teaching people, no, people know what action to take to defend themselves. And the unruly regimes for 135 years now, from 1890 to date, we've had unruly, violent regimes using instruments of state violence against the peaceful citizens of this country. That is why we even went to an armed liberation struggle, which was democratic in nature. It was democratic in nature to take up arms of war and counter the majority, the dictatorial racial regimes. So you see, when the majority decided to take a position, that position is consistent with the ethos of democracy. Because you cannot allow minorities to butcher people just like that. And I've actually said that I do concur. I understand our youth movement chair when he said very well that the act that was done by Emmerson Damzo Mnangagwa was at the time a revolutionary act, was at the time not a violation of any lawful rule. It was not a criminal act. If you see everybody who acted during the liberation struggle, during the time of the Civil War, those people are heroes today. They are heroes. Because they rose and took a position. Some people acted, and their acts were never recognized to this day, but they contributed. The entire nation went to war. It was not ZANU-PF that went to war. No, it was the people of this country who went to war, so that they would stop brutal, racial, oppressive rule in search of a democratic system of governance. One person, one vote, peacefully, through a ballot box. That's how the whole world believes a peaceful appointment of a public authority called a government should be done. So, elsewhere they have said, we will fight fire with fire. Look, in the National Democratic Working Group, we will add that we will fight fire with water. Because if there is fire there, we pour water, it disappears. This is how peaceful we are. This is how peaceful we are. a very peaceful leader, Advocate Job Sikhala, who has had extreme torture meted on his body. Never had any, even pin chipenet shokubaya munhu. Have you ever heard that he took a weapon and so on? But he is being persecuted with arms of war. I tell you what, weapons that we use are a product of our thought processes. There's a deadlier attribute of human beings, the human mind. And when the human mind, necessity is the mother of invention. When the human mind is put in a corner, whether it survives or not, it will craft strategies to defeat destruction, to defeat annihilation, to defeat extermination. And the National Democratic Working Group is doing exactly that. And we are moving and marching, certainly, also capturing the people's wisdom on strategies and tactics to take. This is why he was talking about strategic thinking in terms of human organizations, in terms of human interaction. There is unlimited wisdom in the 16 million people. And the minority who are calling themselves ZANU-PF and their regime are a very small minority. They don't have any wisdom that may come close to the 16 million people thinking together. This is why we are moving towards the convention, in order to reach to the people's intelligence, the people's wisdom, so that once decisions are made and packaged, they are unleashed for implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a mass resistance strategies or mass resistance tactics. That is the only way to win the current situation of dictatorship. The issue is in the people, and the people shall dictate on the course of action to take nationally to squash the 2030 agenda, ZANU-PF agenda. And so far, so good. People have succeeded. But like he has said, and I've said in the main statement, and also in this interactive section, like he has said, we will continue on our mission to get data, to get the people's views as we move on. To say, right now there's 2030, what do we do? Right now there's hunger, what do we do? There's theft, there's looting of public property. What do we do? Right now there's a lack of housing, what do we do? And so many aspects of our national life. We are collecting data. So never you be detracted by so-called 2030 agenda. In fact, we understand that they are now campaigning for Vingirai to be president of ZANU-PF at the 2027 elective Congress. This is what we understand they are doing now. So it might just be a ruse to say 2030 when they are doing something internal in their own political party. But we understand those games. Our task is, and the agenda is broader. It's national in outlook. Thank you. Back to you. I think we can close now.
All right. Thank you very much. In conclusion, you heard what the acting chief facilitator said about Vingirai. Imimuri members of the press, makanzwa zvakataura kuHeathcliff, quite instructor, zihambi kuti adile neconstitution. Akamira sani. Kuti iye anoti constitution yenyika yose. Yo instructor minister wani. Ipapo atisi kuvuma. Panyaya yeviolence yatambotaura ndikurangarira tiri kwaMutare paya patakasunga makatendekwa nepfuti kai.
Yes.
You see the cowardness in this system. Look at this old man, unarmed, anotendekwa nepfuti. Ende mukatarisa motaketi mazuva ano muri kuona kuti iri kuwedzewa security. Moziva kuti panotyikwa ani paya paya. Haatyi mombe, madhongi nembudzi. It's us. So isusu tinotyisa kudarika zvinoonekwa. Anotya isi tese maZimbabweans. Why achitya? Mbavha haina zororo. Ine chingofunga kuti ndavonekwa. Inofunga kuti vanhu vanona chiro zvayadya zviri mudumbu havana zororo. Ndosaka iwe uchiti munyika mauri kunzi uri kugona, uri kuwedzera security. Ukapfuura paState House pari kucherwa mazikomba, kuiswa maradha ekuti pasensiwe kana uchipfuura namaexplosives. Iwe uchiti kugona basa. Oda kuti usvike 2030. Saka security ndei. Who is your threat? Muri kuona contradictions zacho. So we thank you all the members of the press for attending this press briefing from the National Democratic Working Group. We hope you conscientize other people who are not here, and we thank you for coming on a short notice, and we hope that you attend more press conferences. And I think if you want to know anything, sometimes maybe we might delay to come to the press. Feel free to get hold of us as National Democratic Working Group whenever you want clarity and maybe you want our comment on a particular thing. As National Democratic Working Group, what are you saying? Because of lately, we are the voice of the suffering masses of this country. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you.